Hello. Oh my God. There's not really anything to be surprised about. I don't know why I'm acting like that. Good morning, good afternoon. Happy Pride Month. It's June. I microdosed again this morning, but with a different strain. So, I went for a long walk. Oh, by the way, if we haven't met, hi, it's your boy, Mix Mercury, the Astro Himbo. And welcome to Transit Chat Sunday. I went for a long walk for an hour after I did my microdose, and it put me in a silly, goofy mood. So, cheers. I'm drinking a 7-Up. It's a tropical twist. Okay. I don't know if y'all can hear me swallow, but I apologize in advance. First of all, updates. My books are open. My books are open. I have very limited availability. So, people who are subscribed to my Patreon got first dibs, and they booked me up for almost all of June. There may be 1 or 2 more spots open though, so you should go check that out if you want to come see me. And then they are open on a rolling schedule at least 2 months in advance. So if you have a birthday coming up, or if you just want to come talk to me, you better book a spot. Excuse me. I only have Monday evenings, every Monday evening, unless it's a holiday, and then every other Wednesday. So that's what I'm going to work with so far. They are 35 to 45-minute sessions. You do have the option to purchase an extra 15 minutes as well if you want a little bit more time than just that. But my goal with the shorter time periods or the shorter time slots is because I'm a busy man and this is at the end of my day and I'd be tired. So I just want to get to the point. So if you can do your part by knowing what you want to talk about before you come see me, that way we can get right into it. Or whatever question you have, or just whatever it is that you are wanting to talk about, even if you don't tell me in advance, as long as you know in advance, and it's not super, I don't know, if it doesn't require a lot of prep from me, as long as there's a focus, then we can just crank it out in that 35 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour time slot. But yeah, because I want it to be a quality offering, not a quantity offering. And so I'm gonna just have to nip it in the bud. And I hope y'all are open to that. Cool. So yeah, my link is in the description of this video, and it's also on all of my social medias. I've updated my links on all of my social media pages. That's at Mix Mercury on all platforms. You can book your reading there. And then if/when I open up more availability, I will let y'all know. I don't really know if I foresee that happening, just because work has been so busy with Jupiter and Gemini, and I knew it would. It's been very busy, but I think it might start to slow down just a little bit for this like bulk of the summer part. So we'll see what happens. But I'll be talking to people all day. So then I'll be talking to people all night and just be talking to people. And sometimes I want to do that. But it didn't look like we'll have a choice. So as I segue into our topics of the day, lots of planets are changing signs. We're getting away from this Pisces shit a little bit. It's just going to be Saturn in Pisces in the background humming while everybody else moves on. Praise God, as my grandmother would say. So we just had Venus move into Aries yesterday. And then the end of this week, we'll have Mercury entering Gemini to join Jupiter, which I think will be so noisy and so annoying. And then by the end of Friday, that's June 6th, right? Yeah, by the end of Friday, Mars will enter Leo. So we'll also be done with this centuries long Mars and Cancer transit. Oh my gosh, Mars retrogrades are just like overkill every time. So, and with that, I do feel I already feel it. I'm sure y'all probably feel it too. After the new moon last week, which was that new moon had hands and feet, and it took me out. I don't know if it took y'all out. That, along with, I think that was the first moon Jupiter conjunction that we had in Gemini, like the middle of last week. That also pissed me off. And then, and now we're here to this last moon Mars conjunction in Cancer, which has also pissed me off. So I've just been very annoyed and irritable all week. And now we got planets moving into fire signs, which makes me think that everybody's about to get real irritable and real irritating. So it seems like y'all agree. Also saying hello to y'all in the chat. Hi Deb. Hi Lo. Hi Sloan. Hi Rashawn. Hey Daria. Yeah, so it's just hey C, it's just so I feel like when planets enter Aries, and mind you, we did already have the Sun and Mercury in Aries, so it's not like this is our first Aries transit. But I think after being in somewhat of a Venus-dominated year with Jupiter being in Taurus, and then that Taurus stellium and all that mess we just had, it's like I'm looking forward to Venus doing something else that isn't super clingy and codependent. No shade, but Venus in Pisces lasted forever as well. Very long retrograde. She wasn't moving between signs. She was just posted up in her sign of exaltation, making everybody like this. Lots of fusing, lots of merging, and then Venus and Aries is more like this. Actually, is stay over there. Use either you need to stay over there, or I'm gonna go over here. That's the energy that I get from Aries, and I guess to be fair, because I have Venus and Scorpio, right? So I have Venus ruled Mars. Wait, Mars ruled Venus. Venus in Aries is also Mars ruled Venus, but in the fire way. So I find this placement to have this feeling that's like, okay, either y'all are going to change because of me, or I'm not going to be here anymore. And if I'm changing, y'all need to change with me or get out the way. Like it's very, y'all better come on, y'all better keep up. Things need to change. If whatever is in our power to change, we need to change it, and if we can't change it, then we need to go somewhere else and do something else. And I find that to be stark contrast from what we were just dealing with Venus and Gemini. So I posted a tweet last week that went viral, and I knew it would. That's how I know I'm getting better at astrology, because I knew it would when I said it. I said, what did I say? What did he say? I think this was on Monday. And it really popped off. I wonder if I can find it real quick. Pause for the cause. Oh, there it is. Oh no, it's gone. Oh, there it is. Okay. 2 tweets actually. And they're related. So the first one I said, stop psychoanalyzing other people. You're not getting paid for the emotional labor it takes to rationalize other people's behaviors for them. Redirect that energy into curious self-reflection and introspection. And it got up to 11,000 likes. So we out here. And then the second one that I said a couple days after that, after everyone agreed that you're right, I should stop doing that. The next one said that if you find yourself constantly, emphasis on constantly, trying to make sense of someone's behavior, someone's harmful behavior, it might be time to remove yourself, or at the very least, add another boundary. Don't let excessive compassion have you out here tolerating fuck shit. Now, before the individualism police come for me, sometimes I came in just as you were describing Venus and Aries. Actually, Eric, I was thinking about you on my walk because I was like, oh, the sky kind of really looks like Eric's chart. I wonder how they're doing. So I'm very curious how you'll feel about our conversation today, which I don't have planned. I don't have any notes. These are just things I've been thinking about over the week, from my own experience of last week, and feeling this tension building up. So we were talking a lot about. Wait, is today your birthday? Oh, it is. Okay. Happy birthday, Eric. Okay, I was like, I feel like I've been trying to figure out when your birthday was, if it was I couldn't remember off the top of my head if it was early June or if it was late May. So, yeah, happy birthday, friend. I'm so glad. That makes me happy. Okay. Um, I got off my train of thought. Hold on, let me take a sip. Yes, give it up for the birthday, baby. We love to see it. Chat go up. Chat go up. Period. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. All right. Yay, I love it. Birthday, birthday. I love everybody else's birthday except mine. The best. Everybody just be so happy and in celebration. Sometimes I sing. They do have so we get vouchers at work for free classes, free like personal enrichment classes. And I think for other classes too, but they have a voice class. And so I won't be able to use my vouchers until spring because my 6-month probation period where I don't have access to the things because I haven't worked there long enough doesn't end until like October, and that's the middle of the semester. But in the spring, I could probably take a voice class. And if I take a voice class, y'all are gonna be sick of me. Okay, let me get back on topic. Actually, I don't need things in the chat. Okay. What was I saying? Venus and Aries. Oh, I was talking about the individualism police. Okay, so hear me out. The nice thing about astrology is that there is a time and a season for all things, as Dana used to say. There's a time and a season for all things. So sometimes it's time for community and relationships and a conflict resolution and repair and kindness and empathy and compassion. And sometimes it's time to cut that bitch off. Oop. Sometimes it's enough. Sometimes it's time to prune away the things that are not actually in service of your highest good. And that means either you need to leave or some other people need to leave. Something needs to change. So, this is one of those seasons. I'm calling it now. This is one of those seasons, especially with Mercury and Jupiter in Gemini, where we're not clinging to relationships anymore. We're not staying together for the sake of staying together. We are asking hard questions and sometimes easy questions, but we are a little bit more open to new information and change, especially right now. And I do feel like because this is a Mercury ruled transit, Jupiter and Gemini, that this time period where we are coming up on we're coming up on the Scorpio full moon first, and then after that a Gemini new moon, which Mercury may or may not still be in Gemini by that time. But either way, these Gemini transits, as they're coming in, they're setting the stage for whatever Jupiter and Gemini is about to do moving forward. And along with that, like I said, planets moving into fire signs, especially Mars ruled fire signs. There's a brief window in here where I think it's time to cut some people off. And if we're not cutting people off, we're cutting something about ourselves off that needs to change. Right? So I say all of that to say that tweet, those series of tweets that we're talking about, not psychoanalyzing people. Why did I say that? Well, Jupiter signs, mutable signs, Mercury, they love to analyze in their own ways. They have a way of sitting back and collecting and assimilating, collecting and aggregating and organizing information that's coming in or that's going out. And I think whenever Venus was in Pisces with all this other Jupiter stuff going on, people were in a position where they were trying to figure out, with the information that was available, how they felt about people in their relationships. And sometimes that meant not actually, asking the people outright a necessary question or having a necessary conversation or whatever it is, an uncomfortable conversation, if you will, about, your relationship dynamic. And so because of that, it puts us in this position where we're kind of contorting ourselves or changing ourselves or something about the interaction where we try to get the information that we want around this speculation or this assumption that we're making, and may not actually be having wait we're using the information available to make an assessment of a person or a situation, psychoanalyzing people to decide how we need to position ourselves in a dynamic, right? When in reality, what you could actually do, well, I won't say what you could actually do. When in reality, there's another option, and the other option is recognizing that you're uncomfortable with something and letting that be your truth. It's not the only truth of the situation, right? This is not speaking for the other people in the dynamic, but for you, it's like recognizing that, oh, I actually am uncomfortable. Like I'm trying to, part of the reason I might be psychoanalyzing this other person or reading into this other person's behavior and trying to make sense of it is because it doesn't feel very good to me. It's uncomfortable to me. It doesn't make sense to me or something, right? Like there's something about it that is just not sitting well with you. And sometimes it doesn't really matter why they're doing what they're doing. What matters is it's impacting you. I was talking to Samaje, and Samaje was bringing up really good points about Taurus placements. Just saying that, like, one of the purposes, one of the really like overlooked purposes of Taurus as a sign and Taurus transits is that you become aware of your impact on other people. It's an earth sign. Like you materially become aware of the way somebody else's emotions or behaviors or whatever it is actually like impact you and your relationships and your community, your group, whatever it is. And it matters to know how you're coming off. It matters if you know that you're making other people uncomfortable. It matters if you yourself are uncomfortable in a dynamic with other people. Like your comfort matters in that relationship. So one thing Taurus can be really good at is making other people feel comfortable and welcome. And then the other side of that is sometimes sacrificing parts of yourself or your own comfort in order to accommodate everyone else. There's a place for all of that, depending on the situation. And it gets to a point. And when that point is the self-abandonment. That point is the harm maybe that the other person is doing that they're not being held accountable for. The harm is everybody is letting this person or these people or these groups or whatever just do whatever they want in order to appease them, when in reality, or when the truth is like, hey, that's not cool. Probably cut that out. And sometimes we also find ourselves assimilating to other people's bad behavior as well. So what I like about the transition from Pisces to Aries, and Aries also being in the 12th house from Taurus, is that Aries is like, all right, break that shit up. Like, if y'all are going to keep acting like this, I'm going to leave. If y'all are going to keep acting like this, I'm going to say something, and now we're all going to be uncomfortable. If you keep acting like this, you're going to need to be held accountable for your actions. And same goes for us in our relationships. Like, hey, time for you to take responsibility for your impact and your influence. Now, some might argue that Aries can be unaware of their influence and impact. And I think it really depends on where Mars is. But that's also possible. There is a little bit of that recklessness, and there is a little bit of that just that part about fire where sometimes it hurts, sometimes it does burn, sometimes you are in conflict and it doesn't feel good, or somebody tells you about yourself and that doesn't feel good either. There's just a number of different ways that I think Aries can show up in this way that can feel a little bit more direct and, dare I say, aggressive. But again, sometimes you need that. And with Mars moving from Cancer into Leo, I think the time that you need that, the times that you need to be a little bit more abrasive or a little bit more direct, or I don't know, that you need to really like bring your sense of power into a situation is when motherfuckers are disrespecting you and humiliating you and making you feel small, right? Making you feel invisible, or speaking ill on your name, talking bad about you behind your back, whatever it is. Like we talked about earlier this year with those Leo and Aquarius full and new moons and now the eclipses. Uh it's important to recognize, especially after a year of Taurus transits, it's important to recognize when somebody who you feel like maybe has more power or influence than you is doing something that makes you feel unworthy or small or irrelevant. Because you are worthy and um, allowed to take up space and have influence on other people in the world. And your presence like matters. The thing is, sometimes you may not be being appreciated by these people who you've depended on for connection and acceptance over the last year or the last however long that makes sense to you. So whenever I talk about cutting ties with people, it's probably because, yes, folks are playing in your face. And instead of assuming the best or giving them the benefit of the doubt or, I don't know, trying to caretake them in this way that you're kind of making excuses for the fact that they're hurting you, if that's something that you're going through, or that they're being hurtful in general, whatever it is, making too many excuses and exceptions for somebody's behavior. This is the time where it's like, oh, actually, I've given you enough chances, probably more than enough chances. Nothing has changed. So if nothing externally has changed, I have to then respond accordingly, be honest with myself, and get the fuck ASAP. Right? So that's my logic behind saying that sometimes it's just time to go. And what's nice about Venus and Aries, I think, is that when one person goes, ironically, a lot of times a lot of other people are willing to follow the person who's doing the different thing, because the person doing the different thing, like, it's kind of like embodying truth and embodying dignity in this way that gives other people permission to also embody a sense of dignity and self-respect. But somebody has to be the person to kind of break the pattern, break the mold, and say, I'm not putting up with this anymore. I'm gonna leave. And then whoever wants to come with me can come with me. But we're going over here. That's that on that. So um it may take, through the rest of this week to really start to notice if you're in this situation, in this type of a situation, or some of you also just may not have this experience at all, which is fine. But I think the general tone shift goes from wanting to maintain relationships to feeling a desire to separate yourself, and then whoever else also feels that desire will likely join you, and then you create your own rogue group or rebellious group. So it would be nice to see, like, politically more rebellions, I don't know, more just more dissent in general, more protests and things like that. Just more action being taken. Maybe the Democrats actually fucking doing something would be nice. Um but yeah, just as far as your personal life goes, that's the vibe that I kind of had this past week, was like, why are we sitting and still, like, trying to make sense? And I guess I should say, to be charitable, right? Like, there is a place for um trying to make sense of an experience or a situation that you just don't have the answers to, by telling yourself some kind of a story that is going to inspire the actions that you need to take, right? Like, if you have been in a situation where you have been giving someone the benefit of the doubt and making excuses for them, or um being just overly compassionate towards them and not having enough compassion for yourself, then whatever narrative that you have about them or story that you have about them, and why you're accepting that behavior, sometimes it just be like that. Like I said, it's not a matter of like you can decide what behavior you do and don't tolerate, and for what reasons. You're always allowed to decide that. The issue that I have, like if I'm your coach or your friend or whatever, is if you are constantly complaining about how upset and frustrated you are with this person, these people, and you don't do anything to change in response to that, because it's clear they're not going to change. It doesn't matter how long, it doesn't matter if you understand them and their backstory and their traumas and this and that. Like, there's again a place for that in relationships that you can't really separate from, because you do have to come to some kind of acceptance of these people and their behaviors. And you do, that is kind of the purpose of emotional narratives, is so that you can make peace with a situation, whether you're in it or not, whether you need to leave it or you need to stay. And that is a protective mechanism. We all do it to some extent. But if you find yourself constantly, if you find yourself, I'll say, in a relationship that you can get out of, or that you can, or I'll even add, finding yourself in a relationship or a dynamic that you can get out of, or in a dynamic where you haven't actually tried to speak up and have the conflict, that's the other option, right? Like, wait, sorry, getting lost in my own thought. Let me rewind. Okay. So on the one hand, yes, there is a place for understanding, compassion, empathy, and patience, right? There's always a place for that. There's always a place for leaning into conflict in those relationships in order to try to have mutual understanding, compassion, respect, empathy, so on and so forth. There's a place for that. And I do think that still exists in the upcoming transits, because again, fire and Mars and fire, especially Venus in a Mars ruled sign, leaning into conflict can actually strengthen your relationship, right? So there is a place for that. So I don't want to discount that, because I do think that's valid. There's also a place for, I've tried all that. I've tried all that. I've been as understanding as I possibly could. I've been as empathetic. We've had the conflicts, and nothing has changed as a result of those conflicts. So again, if the situation isn't changing, if the dynamic isn't changing, if you and the other person feel like you're stuck in some kind of toxic cycle or whatever it is, then the thing that changes is you leaving, you getting out of it. Because you've already tried all the other stuff. And a lot of times, um, I was listening to this dominatrix. I think she's a Nigerian dominatrix. She has this podcast episode, and she was talking about like something about like this over, I don't know, something that it was called communication is not key. And she was talking about like, I'm done falling for this propaganda of you just need to communicate more. And she was specifically talking about straight cishet women who date straight cishet men. Straight cishet, that's redundant, but cishet women who date cishet men, and saying like, hey, um chances are you're over communicating with this man who knows exactly what he's doing. Like, this is an adult man who you are telling him like, wow, hey, listen, I really don't like it when you call me XYZ names. I really don't like it that you are leaving dishes all over like, she's like, you're telling a grown-ass man things that he already knows, and he keeps doing it. Slumflower, let me see what her name is. Um, I don't even know if it's on here anymore. It's enough slices. Uh, communication is not. Yes, Slumflower. How'd you know? Slumflower Hour. Yes. I was talking about that episode because yeah, and I was listening to it because at first, my I don't even know what to call it, but the part of me who's like, no, we do need relationships and we do need to communicate. But I was like, let me hear her out. And I was like, no, she's absolutely right, because she was like, why are you giving this man so many chances to keep disrespecting you? She was like, men, and I don't really deal with men in a romantic sense. And as a man, I don't really behave like this. At least I don't think I do. So I I don't know if this is true or not, but y'all tell me. She was like, men Men operate differently in the sense that um I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was basically this point that like the communication that they need is you leaving. Like they understand, it was something like them understanding actions more than, I don't know what she's talking about. But it was basically this idea that like what's really going to communicate to him is whenever you reclaim your energy, when you pull your energy out of that dynamic and you stop letting him cross your boundaries over and over and over again and play in your face, because they will play in your face if you let them. And I was like, sis Edmund do be acting like that, so I don't blame her. But I just really felt that, because it really felt like, girl, but if he doesn't have enough respect for you to listen the first time that you speak on something, then anything after that is over communication. He's not listening. He's not going to act indifferent because he hasn't already acted different. Exactly. Okay, and this is really what it's all about. Actions have consequences, and so when you delay those consequences, what are we really talking about? This probably sums up the whole conversation whenever it comes to Aries for me. Because one thing about Aries is that yes, Aries may do whatever they want to do, but the feedback that Aries gets, the consequences are what determine the next decision that Aries is going to make. Where Libra, I think, tries to preempt consequences, like tries to move in a way that doesn't um, move in a way that sometimes avoids consequences or punishment, whatever word you want to use. Libra tries to like prevent that up front. Whereas Aries is kind of like, look, we're going to do what we need to do now. We'll ask for forgiveness later, or we'll work it out on the remix. Like, but the point is the awareness that actions have consequences. So you're kind of assuming the consequences up front, that whatever action you take, there's going to be a reaction or there's going to be a consequence, and we'll just deal with it when we get there. Um, and a lot of times when you're met with that consequence, that's when you have to take responsibility for your actions before that. So it's like, yeah, if you are in a relationship with somebody and they've told you over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that they don't like something, or that something that you're doing is hurtful to them, and you don't listen, they're gonna leave. Like, we can only have so much patience and understanding for some shit that hurts. What? Like, yes, I know you've been through things. Guess what? I've also been through things. And this is one of the things I've been through that I would like to stop going through. Hello? Hello? So the Mars, and I have Mars in Leo. I can tell you about it. The Mars in Leo with the Venus in Aries is like, at some point, bitch, I'm fed up. At some point, I have to respect myself and my feelings and my own pain and discomfort enough to get up on out of here and go somewhere else. Because, baby, we've had a year of Jupiter in Taurus. We had a big old Pisces stellium eclipse. We had a very long Venus retrograde in Pisces and a Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Girl, if you don't understand by now, if they don't understand by now, if don't nobody understand by now, what is left to do? You don't need more information. You don't need more understanding. You either need to have that beef up front and duke it out, or you need to go. It's time to go. So I don't know. That's just where I'm at. I don't know that there's anything specifically that I feel this way about. I just feel the energy of it. Like, oh, quit playing with me. Nothing has changed. We've had all this time. We've had all this time in the relationship era, relationship reconciliation era. So, Miss K, I love Miss K Poyer on TikTok. She was saying this also. She said she was talking about people being conflict averse. And listen, I am conflict averse, very something that I have always known about myself, but I'm understanding about myself a little bit more. So do as I say, not as I do. I'm also speaking to myself. But she was talking about how when you are conflict averse, like the way that you move is so foul and so dirty sometimes because she said you are holding this resentment or this whatever it is that you're mad about between your butt cheeks and just waiting for a moment to blow it all up and everybody else get all upset. Um and she's like, and the more that you do that, the less, I don't remember what she said. I'm adding this in, but she's like, the longer that you do that, like the harder it is to come back from that. So she's like, so you need to have that conflict. You need to have that fight. You need to beef with these people up front so that you can either strengthen your relationship or you know exactly who the fuck you're dealing with and that it's time to go. But being in this weird limbo of not really knowing and trying to read in and like trying to make sense of it without actually asking somebody or having the conversation so that they can speak for themselves, for their own experience and their side. Like, listen, I get it. People be defensive. People be lying to themselves and justifying themselves, and we all have our ways that we defend and protect in conflict, that we don't want to hear what the other person has to say about us and how we're being or how they feel or whatever. And not doing that, not putting everything out in the open and just keeping it all into yourself and like kind of being like you lurking in the bushes trying to figure out like if you should really crash out or not, is like, what is that doing for you besides creating more emotional labor from you and energy from you? It's stealing your energy and your focus because you're ruminating about the situation that you just don't know the actual concrete truth of. And even if you were to address the situation and the other person lies and you either know that they're lying or you don't believe what they're saying, that's something for you to think about too. Like, that's where your discernment has to come in and say, okay, either I'm going to make the decision to trust this person and take what they're saying at face value and then let it play out. And then after that, I know exactly if they're telling the truth or not. Or um, you maintain your suspicion and admit that you don't trust them. And then you move on. You go somewhere else. Like, but this is about being decisive. Hey, Samaje. I'm out here reading bitches. I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. But yeah. Adaria says, when these topics come up, I think about this formal idol, Tao, telling on his live when someone asks what they should do if their significant other cheats. And he's like, leave them regardless of gender. Like, what? I mean, yeah. I think, I will, well, Jim, I see your message. I'm gonna respond to that next. I have unpopular opinions about cheating. Um, but I really think it depends on. I have unpopular opinions about cheating when it comes to marriage, which I know how it sounds, and it's not even a fully formulated thought. So I'm not even gonna say it here. But I have thoughts that are unpopular about that. But if you just like not married, I'm gonna shut up. Today, I'm gonna shut up. We'll revisit that another time. Okay, Jim. Hear me out. What if your experiences of feeling disempowered and conflict have conditioned you to avoid them altogether? Well, it's me. So we should work that out. We should work that out. I don't know how to work that out. I mean, not that I don't know how. How you work that out is we must do it more. We must do it more in small ways. But I do hear you because same. I hate when because this okay, so about me. Just air myself out a little bit. If I'm gonna air y'all out, I'll air me out. I am one of the people in true Capricorn fashion, Scorpio fashion, who will sit on a problem that I have for a few reasons. One reason is because I didn't take it seriously the first time. Um, I didn't take my dislike for that thing that I'm mad about the first time. So because I didn't take it seriously within myself the first time, then it happened again. And then the second time was kind of like, then I become aware of the fact that I don't like that. I'm like, okay, this is the second time that that's happened and I don't like it. But then my problem is because of not fully knowing how to articulate what it is even that I'm upset about or how to approach it, and that I think in and of itself is a symptom of something. Then the third time that it happens, now I'm like, okay, bitch, somebody is playing in my face and I'm trying to work it out, trying to figure out how to talk about it. And then at some point, then it just blows up into a whole thing. So I feel like part of it does, I think, have to do with taking your own feelings seriously. And in fact, like getting more in tune with your feelings, like your own discomfort. Cause I think it's easy, especially for us people with air placements, strong air placements. I think it's easy for us to intellectualize stuff, rationalize stuff, kind of like we were talking about earlier with psychoanalyzing people. It's easy to just kind of like, oh, well, they did this because this, and this about them. And so I don't need to take that personally. That might be true. And I think, yes, same, Deb. Sometimes I don't notice I'm mad until later. Same. So I feel like what could be your power, if you're an air sign person who deals with this, just kind of not even being that upset about it in the first place, is if part of you knows that that was maybe not great, even if you're not like pissed off about it, even if it is something that you could just let slide, I think it's advantageous to still talk about it, especially because you're not already like worked up about it. I think if you're in that place where you're not necessarily like super pissed off, you're not even really that mad, you're not even really that upset, but you just kind of noticed odd, strange behavior from this person. That's, I think, an excellent time to inquire about it, to lead with that curiosity. Um, Again, depending on the type of relationship that you're in, but I just feel like, yeah, that kind of is like, oh, what was that about? Because then you don't even really have to talk about your feelings because your feelings aren't even really in the conversation. It's just you trying to like, oh, like that Sabrina, like that Sabrina Breyer gif. Oh, I feel like leading with that energy, and this for the air signs, leading with that energy and talking about it more up front, then you'll be a little more sensitive to the issue if it comes up again. And then you add in the whole rest of this conversation where like, okay, it's come up again and again and again, and I'm just getting more pissed off. So we already talked about this once. Why are we talking about it 17 times? Now I will add another caveat that is not, hey Desiree, that is take this with a grain of salt. I do think there's something to be said for the fact my own compassion brain is kicking in, right? Because I'm just trying to be real about relationships as well. Like sometimes people aren't going to get it on the first try, right? Like if, especially if this is like a long pattern of behavior for them that doesn't have to do with you, it's not like they're going to be able to just wake up tomorrow and like never do that again. So that's where I think also discernment around the level of offense also matters. Like if we're talking about the dishes, right, or some shit versus cheating, texting other bitches, like this is a different, there's different levels of things, right? So but I think this is where it gets complicated. Like this is where all the nuance is. But to wrap up this thought, if you're feeling disempowered in conflict and you feeling disempowered has conditioned you to avoid conflict altogether, then yeah, I would say it requires a little bit more practice. It's to start with low stakes things. Because if you start with low stakes things and it goes well and it doesn't turn into a complete fiasco, or you're starting with something low stakes that even you know is low stakes and shouldn't blow up, but then it blows up anyway, that's all information for you to work with moving forward. That you're like, okay, maybe it's not me. Because I didn't think this was supposed to be a huge detrimental thing, but this other person is kind of blowing it out of proportion too. Or even if it's you and you notice you're blowing it out of proportion. Like, that's all information. I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do with that information, but that's all information that, again, you get to decide if you really want to keep dealing with that or not. Because I always say, and I'm very much like this with myself, is that we always know when we've had enough. You always know when you've had enough. And if you haven't had enough, then you just might not be there yet for whatever reason. Um, but I do tend to think that these transits coming up, Venus and Aries, Mars and Leo, these are the I've had enough placements. So I'm just giving a heads up that you might feel that way. And the I've had enough again could either lead to you getting out or confronting. So, and I like this. I like that you said disempowered specifically because I do think empowerment is an Aries word, Aries theme. It's literally feeling your power in a situation, whatever that is. It may not be, um, it just may not look the way that you're expecting it to look, but you do have some kind of power in the situation, usually that you just haven't embodied yet, that you haven't leaned into yet. So that's what I think. That's what I try to do is just to lean into it a little bit more because it's uncomfortable, and you have to do it multiple times to start to feel. It's like with any conflict, you know, if you are fencing and you've never fenced before, of course, it's not going to feel very good. You're going to get your ass kicked a couple times. I don't know if you get your ass kicked in fencing. Let's talk about something else. If you are not a boxer, if you don't be out here boxing, then of course, the first several times you step into the ring, you're not going to be very good. It's going to hurt. You're going to get your ass beat. It's going to take a while to recover. You have to practice boxing to get better at it and to feel more confident going into it. So it's like anything else. It's just going to suck at first. It's going to take a long time to move through and to acclimate, but you do get better. You do get stronger. You get more emotionally resilient the more that you do it. And then big things stop feeling like big things. Or, big things stop feeling like big things. Small things stop feeling like big things. And then big things you feel like you can handle a little bit more. But a lot of that is also self-trust related, you know? That's what I think. Real. Okay. The video was regarding dating, not married. Yeah, I think dating, like, I'll say this. I don't think anybody, me personally, I don't think anybody should put up with cheating. Um, we could talk about Cardi B and Offset because I just heard somebody talking this morning about how Cardi B left one cheating ass nigga for another cheating ass nigga, and I don't know nothing about this new man that she's with, but apparently she moved on from Offset, who was cheating, into this relationship with this other dude who's cheating. And I don't know nothing about them details, but um cheating has so many layers to it that are really fucked up. Like, putting my own stance on cheating aside, because me personally, I don't want to be your second choice. I don't want to be in competition with other motherfuckers. Like, if we are going to decide up front that this is consensual non-monogamy, then let's do that. Let's do that. I don't But if we are committed to each other and then I find out that you are lying to me and deceiving me for however long you've been doing that, why would you do that to me? Because I just never would have did you like that. So, me personally, I don't think anybody should put up with it. Um Now, me theoretically looking at cheating as a symptom of something going on in the relationship, like if I'm in a if I'm I don't want to talk about this. This is so because I know this is so loaded, right? And I've been cheated on before. Um, cheated on, and when I say that, I mean with someone who we weren't officially dating yet, but I was like, the next time that I saw them, going to ask them, to like make things official, and then found out that they hooked up with somebody, two somebodies behind my back, and I was like, okay, well that's it. It's a wrap. Um, in other situations, I don't fuck with deceit, right? But if I'm thinking about cheating as a symptom of something else in the relationship, and I don't mean in extremes. I mean in relationships where these people have been together for years and the cheating begins sometime in those later years, or people who are in marriages where it's not that easy to just like end the relationship and move on, right? I'm thinking about longer relationships, more complicated situations versus like, I'm not talking about situationships. I am not talking about early dating relationships. I'm not talking about unofficial, even relationships necessarily. I'm talking about you have been committed to each other and there's not a pattern of this behavior. In those situations where it's not a pattern for either person, um, I see cheating as a symptom. And usually the symptom is somebody's needs not getting met. And it's not really about like sex most of the time for either person. I know men will say what they say and women say what they say and people in between, but cheating is often a symptom of something else going on in the relationship, sometimes feeling unappreciated, sometimes feeling neglected, feeling unseen, unheard, something. So it's at that point to me, it's not even so much about the cheating as it is whatever unspoken issue or unresolved issue that couple has with each other that they've either tried to talk about and haven't worked out, or that they they haven't talked about, and what did I say? Whatever, something that they have or haven't talked about that needs to be worked out. And it's usually some kind of an issue that predates the cheating. So the cheating, like I say, ends up being like a consequence of some other thing, a symptom of some other disconnect going on between those two people. So if those two people have both equally decided they want to stay in the relationship together and work through whatever the cheating situation is, to me, that's different. But again, that's an agreement between both of them people in the relationship. And if it happens again after that, dead that shit. But for the most part, when we're talking about cheating, like sometimes you got to go because why are we lying? So why are we lying? Why are we doing all this extra stuff whenever it just didn't have to be that way? It's such a huge betrayal of trust and security and like confidence and just so many things that I just am like, what was the reason? So that's me. But, even that can have nuance. So let me see what y'all are saying in the chat. Being a novice is uncomfortable, but not unrewarding. I like that. I would agree with that. Yeah, I've never been one to cheat or tolerate cheating. I'm not built like that. Same. The guilt would consume me from the inside. The situation with Diddy's defense is wild because, mind you, he already imposed a non-consensual poly relationship onto Cassie and all his other girls. Yeah, and I don't even want to talk about Diddy because no more press to that situation for free. That also circle back to Jim's point actually, and that if that relationship dynamic is all you know, how would you know different? Like with Cardi, maybe it's better because kids aren't involved. Yeah, if that relationship, well, I mean, and this goes back to what we were talking about last month or even last week, where it can be easy to be stuck in a dynamic. Like if you already have, when we talk about like narratives and stories, personal myths and all these Jupiter things, like, yeah, if all you've known from your parents to your grandparents to your friends and whoever else, all the relationships around you since you were little were, at some point somebody cheats, or at some point somebody lies, or whatever thing is happening, like part of you, not even that you'll see that as normal necessarily, some people might, but it'll be familiar, so that the signs When people talk about how'd you miss all those red flags, it's like, well, are they red flags for people who that's like all they've known? Like they just may not look as red to them as it does to you who grew up in more quote ideal relational circumstances. They just may not be as obvious because part of you is going to believe that everybody kind of operates that to some extent until you're in relationships with people who don't act like that at all. And then you're realizing, like, wow, this is like a foreign concept to me that somebody would actually be truthful and honest up front and not gaslight me about every single thing that they're doing every day. You might not even realize you're being gaslit. So, there's stuff like that where having compassion for other people when they're going through shit that you say you would never be in that situation. You would never be caught dead in that type of situation. Like, you don't know what's going on with them and where they come from, what they got going on, like how they got there. You just don't know. And even then you still don't know if you would have got caught up or not because you're not in it. So like leave that out of it. you know. But yeah, I mean, I think this is totally fair. How would you know any different? Sometimes you don't know any different until somebody goes along and tries to shine a light, and sometimes we're not always receptive to that light either. Sometimes we resist truth as well. So I do think that's also fair. Also, still a possibility moving into this next month. Even though the urge to blow some shit up and leave might still be there, it's still possible that you don't even notice until you're already too deep in the situation that getting out of it feels like, you know, it takes a lot. Yeah, I often say, does a fish know it's in water? Exactly. Okay, what else? What else? We're already at 1 hour. Excuse me. Do y'all have any questions? Any questions about any astrology? It can be about what we're talking about. It can be about something totally different. Y'all know I can pull them cards out. Oh, thank you so much for asking that, actually, because I meant to talk about this. Yes. Yes, I do have thoughts about Mars and Leo conjunct the South Node. Oh, thank you for asking this because I totally forgot to talk about it. So, I am I have mixed feelings about this conjunction. I think it's interesting that the first planet coming in contact with the nodes in Leo and Aquarius, I guess other than Saturn, because Saturn's been in Aquarius. I am curious. I'm trying to remember if in 2023 if Mars was the first planet in Leo to oppose Saturn in Aquarius or if it was a different planet. It might have been Venus. Hmm. Well, I think it's interesting that Mars is going first because Mars is already disruptive. Like when Mars goes through a house in your chart, it just goes through and just like snip, snip, snip. um, just kind of it disturbs everything in that house, ruffles some feathers. And then the South Node specifically, K2, is very much about voiding, like just letting go, getting rid of, pushing away, pushing out, losses, but also purging and this kind of idea of like because I really don't mean it. Yes, purification. Thank you. I was thinking of that word. People often talk about like eclipses that happen on the south node are like purification and purging and just like getting rid of the filth or just whatever blockages. Just keep getting like the thinking of like detoxing and just I don't know. It's that kind of vibe, I think. So it's not just loss for the sake of loss, but it's literally like this literally does not need to be here anymore. This is rancid, it's toxic, it's you know, filth, it's gunked up, whatever. So we need to flush it out. We need to get rid of it. We need to move it out because it's getting in the way of our destiny. It's getting in the way of our progress or our growth or something. And so I think I think it can be uncomfortable, right? In the same way that detoxing is uncomfortable at first. Um I think it can be uncomfortable because you are getting rid of something that you've more or less just gotten used to, that feels familiar, that you've like acclimated to. But just because, again, it feels familiar and because you've stopped noticing the disruption that it has on your life, you know, doesn't mean that it needs to be there. Hey, heart. Long time no see. It's kind of like a good analogy is like your windshield when you're driving or just the windshield of a car and how it picks up like little bugs all the time. And so you may not always notice that your windshield is dirty until you go through that car wash. And then all of a sudden you come out of it and you're like, damn, my windshield was dirty. I didn't even realize. Been driving around with it like that whole time. Especially if you're a Capricorn person or another earth sign person who is so used to just kind of conforming to the world around you or your environment or the other people in your environment or whatever it is. Like it can be easy to overlook all of the ways that you've been um trying to sidestep this discomfort or whatever, this thing you don't like. And so, excuse me, with I don't know why I thought drinking bubbles on live would be a good idea, so I won't be doing that again. But yeah, um all of that to say, Mars then um in addition to that is basically what we've been talking about this whole time. I think I'll pull cards on that actually to see, but it does feel like, yeah, how these glasses get so dirty without me noticing. Exactly. And it's just because I think a lot of times it's just because maybe something else had more of a priority or something else has your attention. And so you just kind of tune that other thing out. But then, yeah, Mars, especially, and other planets, the sun, whoever else come into that house of your chart and they're like, hey, um, do you realize that this has been really disruptive to your life? And that this is hurting you in some kind of a way or that this is something you need to protect yourself from. Like Mars loves to be like, girl, you in danger, girl. And so when it pulls up, you become a little bit more aware of the threats, but you also become more aware of your power. You become aware of all the ways you need to separate yourself from other people, but you also become aware of your own uniqueness and your differences that actually serve you and strengthen you, or again that sometimes your difference is your source of power in the situation, especially whenever it's Leo too. I guess I could also talk about Mars and Leo itself. It's hard for me to talk about that placement because I don't fully understand it in my chart, but Samaje did say recently to me in conversation that Mars and Leo is like being cut off from the things that you would be proud of in yourself or the parts of your identity that you would be proud of because nobody else is around you to actually like notice and hype you up in those specific ways. And so I thought that was really interesting because that's definitely been true for me in certain cases. Like, you know, Ariana Grande also has this placement opposite Saturn. And for as talented as I genuinely think she is, as a vocalist, as a producer, as all of these different things that she does, it's like somehow she doesn't get her shine. And when she does get her shine, it's people talking shit. And it's like, or people starting rumors, or people blowing things up about her that are not her talent and the things that she's actually gifted at. Because for some reason, if we were to acknowledge those things, I don't know what, somebody is going to be jealous, somebody is going to be, I don't know what. So there is, to that I responded to that, like, there is this this aspect to Leo that I don't think we talk about enough, that is literally the sun. Like, the sun, yes, literally highlighting anything but the thing that you care about. The sun, like, you can't look directly at it because you'll go blind. And I feel like people feel that way towards Leos, um where on the one hand, because it's the sun, it literally, like, it's so bright and so commanding and so influential that you can't help but want to look at it. But then when you do look at it, it burns. And I think when you look at it, it burns, it's because it's reflecting something about you as well. You being the observer, onto the Leo people. So it's easy to then, like we've said, like, project onto, or put people up on pedestals or whatever. And that the minute that they do something wrong but very human, that's like, I don't know, they just get crucified for it. And I think with Mars specifically, if we're talking about these Mars themes, about differences and, um, personal power and other just uncomfortable things, then yeah, of course, like, Mars and Leo is probably going to reflect something back to you as the observer, something that you aren't wanting to acknowledge in yourself, or um, something that's uncomfortable for you to acknowledge, even when it's positive things, you know? So yeah, the resentment for shining so bright and being self-assured. Absolutely. And so that's where that urge to, like, humble people, you know, um, when you feel like somebody is, like, too confident or too noisy, or they take up too much space, it's like, do they really? And this, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But, like, for you, the observer, it's like, again, if we go back to this whole thing of not psychoanalyzing people, right? Um, Bree, I think you are a little behind in terms of the part of the conversation that you're responding to. Just heads up, but you may not hear me say this until later. But that's why we're not responding, if you're wondering. Um, I'll circle back to that. But what was I about to say? What was I about to say? Oh, the urge to, like, humble people. So if we go back to the, like, not psychoanalyzing other people, and then you think about the fact that, let's use Trump as an example because he gets under everybody's skin, right? But he's got Leo Mars rising. So I feel like he's a good example for this. He is definitely somebody who takes up all the air in the room, commands everybody's attention, or wants everybody's attention, says whatever he wants, does whatever he wants, whatever, be puffing up his chest and acts like Mr. Tough Guy, and will literally put the entire world in a crisis to get his way. And obviously we have our feelings about that because it impacts us. So I'm not trying to make light of it, but just using this as an example of the archetype, it's like, okay, we could sit here and talk about, we could sit here and call him a narcissist. We could sit here and call him this and that, and make fun of him in all of these different ways and all of this stuff. We could do that, or we could acknowledge that, okay, well, if he's allowed to be the way that he is and take up space in the world, and flex his power in that way, then why can't we? And sometimes, obviously, we don't want to flex our power in ways that just boost, that just what am I trying to say, that just, we obviously don't want to behave in, like, these white supremacist Nazi ways. So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if he is able to flex his power in these ways, then why don't we flex our power in the ways that we actually feel are dignified and authentic and, whatever of ourselves, you know like We could sit here and be mad at him all day, or we could recognize that we also have power and influence too. And so, fuck that guy. Let's do something about this because we deserve to be seen and heard and take up space as well. Right. So then that rebellious energy kind of kicks in to say that he's not the only one with power and influence. Like, I have power and influence too. Um, so it can work in that way. And I often feel that a lot. Sometimes I'll catch myself being kind of salty about somebody else taking up too much space, but that's because I have a complex around feeling like I'm not allowed to take up space for whatever reason. And I could either let that be true and keep playing small and keep avoiding, my own power, or I could say, fuck all that, lean into my power. And then if anybody is going to project onto me or say something about it or create a story about me, make me the villain in their narrative, then so be it. But that doesn't mean I have to sit around and let myself be disrespected or made to feel small. That doesn't mean that I need to just keep putting up with bullshit and that we've circled back to the beginning. So all of that to say, talking about Mars with the South Node, like, my hope is that it does look like whatever resistance we all feel to actually like playing big in this world and letting ourselves be seen in that way of like, hey, I I am entitled to be here as well. I am entitled, like, I have rights. I have a friend, my friend Bunny, that always says the needs and the desires that we have in relationships, like, these are rights. You have an entitlement to being treated like a human being. Like, you're entitled to your humanity. That's what I feel like. There may be some other things that we're not entitled to, but your humanity is absolutely one of them. So if people are behaving towards you in a way that diminishes your humanity, yeah, and your self-esteem and your sense of self, like, that's when you need to go. Get away from that, from those people, because that is a threat. And the threat, if Mars is about confronting the threats in your life or getting away from the threats in your life, then people who are a weapon, is that what I want to say? People who are harmful to your sense of self and self-esteem, like, then yeah, those people are threats. Like, threats to self. There's a reason why you have an ego. I know the white spirituality girlies especially will sit here and demonize ego all day, and how convenient that white spirituality would demonize the ego, because whenever you demonize the ego, what's there to protect you from some spiritual guru who thinks that they know everything about everything and everyone? Like, if you have no ego, then you're more susceptible to falling for cults and cult shit because you don't know who you are. So you're looking for anybody to tell you who you are and a group to follow and feel like, you know, that becomes your sense of self, instead of recognizing that the things that make you different, like, you can feel a sense of self-esteem and self-worth around the things that make you different and unique, because it's you, it's what makes you you. So, like, yeah, there's space for, like, I don't know, there's space for, what am I trying to say? Like, obviously, whenever it becomes arrogant and hubristic, right? Then that's something that you want to get in check. But mind you, if I'm talking about entitlement to humanity, then yeah, having like a god complex and this like super inflated ego and sense of self that goes beyond your own humanity is going to be a problem. It may not necessarily be a problem for um it may not necessarily be a problem in terms of how much power you can amass in a society that kind of likes that, but it does become a problem for you, because now anytime that you act like a human, because you've already betrayed your own humanity by trying to make yourself larger than life, I mean, that's another form of self-abandonment that's eventually going to bite you in the ass when people eventually realize, like, oh, this person is also just a person. So I don't think you need to be humble or have humility or whatever. Like, I know people have their feelings about those words, but I would just say, like, being in right relationship with your own humanity is all that you really need to keep yourself in check. Like, remember that you are a person who can do great things and who also can mess up sometimes, and like just keep those things balanced. I know it's very easy for me to avoid the ways that I am and to avoid messing up and getting things wrong and whatever else, and those are like things that feel like ego bruises to me, but they're also very human, so I can have more self-compassion for that. And because I have more self-compassion for my mistakes and my own humanity, I do have more compassion for other people's mistakes and humanity. However, not to the extent that it means I need to shrink some aspect of myself in order to let this person be them. They can be them over there and I can be me over here. Right? Like, I think maybe something else that could come up with this combination of Aries Leo transits is that desire to control another person, which I think fits in all of this too, like the desire to try and control somebody else and how they see themselves and how big they get and all this other stuff. Like, again, another way of either trying to tear somebody down or trying to manage how people act around you. Like, there is some desire to want to control other people and get them to conform to you. But again, that's where I'm like, once you feel yourself trying to control other people or manage other people's behaviors too much, like you have to be aware of that in yourself enough to say, all right, I'm doing too much. I need to just let that man go. Whoever it is, like, okay, if this person, again, it's back to the acceptance. Acceptance doesn't mean you put up with it. Acceptance means you see it for what it is and you move accordingly. Yes, threat to your self concept. Yeah, we didn't just go through 3 years of Saturn and Aquarius to not have a self concept that you feel protective of, like an authentic self concept, seeing yourself through your own eyes, your own values. We didn't just go through all of that for you to get to Saturn and Pisces and then suddenly be so empathetic of everybody else that you lose yourself yet again in this idea of a person that you would like to be that you aren't really, just because it feels better to somebody else. Fuck all that. No. Mars and Leo said, we're not doing that. We are not doing that. Cooking with grease. Feeling like you just revived my Leo 12th house. Definitely cooking with this. Yeah, I need all the Virgo risings to know. Take up space. And Jim, I saw your question as well. So true regarding control. Definitely hard to navigate that with me asking folks to mask, right? I feel like you can ask people because you owe it to yourself to at least ask. And however they respond, again, is information for you to work with after that. I'm also curious how this Leo and Aquarius is going to pan out with the pandemic scene. I'm also curious because I've seen some other astrologers say that this nodal cycle will bring some kind of end, maybe not to the pandemic itself, but maybe to uh the tools that we've had to deal with it changing, maybe. But I don't know. We got to deal with RFK and all that bullshit first. Which I will also add regarding RFK and just this Trump administration in general, which I also think is related to these nodes, is that they do a lot of these performative, like grand gestures that signal things to their base about like the red food dye and the ending the vaccine, changing the vaccine schedule and changing the recommendations to certain group. Like they're doing all of these things that I think, and I could be wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but what it seems like to me is they're doing these things that are very loud, like signaling and gestures to their unhinged base. But the reality of what those rules actually change are not as dire as they seem. Some of them are, but for some of these other things, especially when it comes to health related stuff, I think there's so much that they legally can't do. So they make it seem to us like they're breaking all of these rules and doing all this stuff so that their base gets all hyped up. But I think when you read the fine print, they're not really doing that much. So, not to say they aren't doing anything and that it's not still harmful, but I think it's not like cataclysmic. I think they want us to be. They want us to like either comply early or like feel self-defeatist about it, and so that we don't investigate further to see like, oh, well, they didn't actually do the full extent of this thing like they've been saying. They only did like 30, 40%, 50% of what they said that they're doing. So we still have some room to fight back. I think there's something with like the manipulation of the situation with that. Okay, Bree. um so yeah, those are some of my thoughts about that. And then as far as how I'm feeling about upcoming Gemini season, I'm not ready. I This is just me personally. Don't let my negative bias towards transits influence y'all too much, because that's just me resisting having to do anything ever. Sometimes I'm just like, oh, more change. And really, that's all it is. It's not like the world is going to end at the end of June. If it does, that would be a surprise to all of us. And there wasn't much we could do about that anyway. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, I get annoyed because I have Gemini rising, I have the moon there, Jupiter is there. And I feel like anything that touches Jupiter just gets blown out of proportion. So, for good or for ill, it just gets blown up. And by blown up, I mean exacerbated, just bigger, just more, sometimes overdoing it. It's very OD energy to me. And so we just had our first moon Jupiter conjunction, like I said, and that was already OD. So then Mercury and Jupiter at the same time is just like, just everybody yapping all at once. And then, the other planets will move through at some point to also link up with Jupiter. And that will be annoying too. But I mostly see Gemini transits. I won't say completely innocuous, but they're just annoying. Like, it's just annoying. Everybody shut up. So that's how I feel about it personally. There is a Sun Jupiter conjunction at 9 degrees in Gemini that I happen to see, and I only know that because it's conjunct my moon. And I think there's also a new moon at 9 degrees Gemini in the middle of the month. So that's something to notice. Mercury may still be in Gemini by then. It may have moved on to Cancer. And then we do have a Cancer retrograde coming up that might happen while there are multiple planets in Gemini, but I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look. So those are some things I'm thinking about. But I think it's going to be a lot of air and fire, which will be a stark contrast from it being a lot of earth and water. So it feels very busy, very vocal, very busy, very alive, maybe in a way that we haven't experienced. And maybe we will see more things actually change. Just, I don't know, just things in general. I'm not thinking of anything specific, but it tends to feel that way in the summer. Like, oh, things are different. So those are my thoughts. He's just being Miley. Change is so uncomfortable. It is. That's all it is, really. I'm like, oh, sometimes I get excited. Like, I am a little bit excited for this Aries Leo stuff because I do like Aries and Leo together. Sometimes it'd be too much, but I prefer it to say Aries and Sagittarius or Leo and Sagittarius. I don't really like that. Not for me. You can pick one, but you can't have both. But Aries and Leo together, sometimes it really makes some shit shake, and I like that. So just a bit exhausting in the process. Yeah. Okay, what is it? 127. I feel like I could keep yapping, but I could also clean my apartment. I'm gonna do that because I didn't do it. I didn't do anything to prepare myself for the week last week, so I'm gonna do that today. And then maybe I'll have a better week than I did last week. That was awful. I'm really negotiating with depression these days, hence the microdosing. So if you're also feeling that way, you are not alone, friend. We will keep our heads above water somehow. I'll pull one card just because I want to know. I'll pull one card, literally just out the deck, and that can be our advice for the week. I feel like one card sometimes is a lot harder than multiple cards, but Whatever card is on the bottom of the deck will be our card for the week. Because I can't help myself. Ooh, two really good shuffles. It is well with my soul. Friendly reminder to like the video if you haven't already. And once again, my books are open if you missed the announcement at the beginning. All right. To the elevated and healed ancestors and spirits, guides, and anybody else who is helping us navigate this crazy world, we are just looking for a little bit of insight and advice. I won't even say insight, just some advice on how to navigate the week ahead. Any wisdom that you have for us, we are open to receiving. And may the message come through clearly and concisely for me as I'm speaking to the homies. And so it is, Ashe. Amen. Mm-hmm. All right. Our card for the week is Four of Cups. That's so funny. I have referenced this card so many times in the last week because it's literally that feeling of like, I've had enough. Like, I've had enough. You've either had enough, you're full, you're not interested. There's some disinterest with this card. So Four of Cups, as you can see, there is a person sitting by a tree. There are three cups they are surrounded by three cups, and then there is a hand offering them a fourth cup. But instead of turning towards or even acknowledging that other cup is there, this person just kind of stays in their meditative trance. I believe the description for this card, it says something about like too busy meditating to take the damn cup. And that is the artist's interpretation of this, which I think is fair. But I think there's something to be said for this experience of going inward and like excuse me, going inward and really, let me not force it. One, something to be said for going inward. And two, something to be said for not taking in anything else for a moment. Fours tend to be moments of like pause or reprieve or rest. And for a number of different reasons, but in this case, it is to kind of go within or to take a break or to consult with yourself instead of taking in what everybody else thinks, what everybody else feels, since we're talking about cups, especially everybody else's thoughts and opinions and stories and everything else. It's like someone is offering you more, whatever that means to you, offering you something, and you are in a space of contemplation of whether you even really want that or not, whether you even need to take it in if it's really what you want, or if you're just taking it because it's available. So, you could interpret this card in a number of ways. So I will speak to all of the ways that you could interpret this as far as advice for the week, and then whichever one lands for you is for you, and which one doesn't, or whichever ones don't, Four of Cups, don't take it. So the first option, if I were to go with the artist's interpretation of this card, this could say something about how you think that you already know everything there is to know, or you are in so much contemplation and maybe like uncertain that you're not taking in any external advice or offerings or whatever else. And maybe those offerings could actually be helpful to you. Maybe you do need to get out of your own mind and get out of your own mind or your own story or your own head and maybe consider what somebody else has to say because you are blocking something that you need by going too far internally. So that's one option. I'm thinking about um this card following the 3 of cups that can look a little bit more collaborative and relational. So maybe you're in a position where you feel like you don't want to take anything else in, but maybe you need to. Conversely, maybe you really don't need more information. Maybe you don't need somebody else's input. Maybe you do just need to go inward and consult with yourself for a moment before you decide if you need to take that cup or not. I think with the 4 of cups, you also could just feel like you're good on that. Whether it's helpful or it's not helpful to you, whether you need it or don't need it, whatever, you just might not want to, you may just not feel like it right now because something else is a little bit more of a priority to you. And so it's okay to focus on the other priority instead for a moment. But yeah, I think what feels the most relevant to me is blocking out everybody else's thoughts and opinions, at least this week, and focusing on yourself and your truth and what's going on inside and getting really clear on that, probably before Mars enters Leo. Because again, Venus just entered Aries yesterday. Mars and Gemini won't change signs until Friday. So Monday through Thursday, this is you. So if we consider that this is us for this week before all the big shifts happen, then yeah, it would make sense to take a moment to be with yourself, to maybe journal or reflect on what Mars and Cancer has done for you over the last 6 months, and even Mars and Gemini as well, and how much has changed. And then what else is in the sky right now? I think that's the main one because everything else. Oh yeah, because Venus and Mercury are still in Taurus. That's why. So yeah, I think there's also that piece of Venus being in Aries now, being the ruler of planets in Taurus. Like yeah, everybody might be asking you to hang out. Everybody's asking you to do this, do that, to be this and be that, and you can just kind of say, "Let me get back to you on that," or "I can't right now." Just something that says, you will get back to them at some point, but right now you just need a minute. Take that little minute and then see what comes up for you. Because it seems like a lot would come up for you if you just listen. That's all. But yeah, if you do happen to be the person who maybe needs to, no, actually, I don't think that's the case. I'm gonna stand on business and say that you've already listened to everybody else enough. Listen to yourself for a minute. Block everybody else out for a second and be real with yourself. Because whatever decision it is that you need to make, or whatever information it is that you're working with, or whatever outcome you're working towards, you are the person who needs to be content with that decision. So make it for yourself. Don't make it for everybody else. And that's that on that, besties. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me this Saturday and every Saturday like you do. I love talking to y'all. It's been so much fun. I hope y'all have a wonderful Sunday. I hope your Pride Month gets off to a strong and delightful start. I hope you go for a little walk. Do something that feels good to you and be in celebration of who you are. for your pride. Like the video if you haven't already. And I will see y'all next week. Bye.